Welcome to the new lecture of C++ where we are going to discuss the real case scenario of using the pointer to a function. The real case scenario may be the passing arguments as the pointer to a function in a user-defined function. And we will see how can we use this pointer to a function argument in a user-defined function. So this is the basic syntax. How can we pass the argument of a pointer to a function to a user-defined function and call that function as callback function. So here you see we have declared and defined a print function which print a statement on the console screen without returning any value. The second user-defined function has a parameter of a type of the pointer to a function. Okay, so this is a pointer to a function which return nothing, which return void and have no parameter list. And the name of the pointer is ptr. So this ptr can be assigned with any function that have this type of signature. Okay, now we want to call that function which will point by the ptr, by the pointer. Okay, so how will we call this function? By calling the pr function from the main function. Okay, so whenever you call a function through the pointer by calling through pointer, okay, so that function is known as callback function. Okay, so let's see how can we call these using in main function. So here in main function we have declared a pointer p of type the void which return nothing, and a function which has no parameter list. So this is a pointer which will point and assign with a reference or an address of a function which return nothing or void and have no parameter list. Okay, so we already know that print function, this is the only function in our program now that have no parameter list and return void. Okay, so we have learned how can we actually assign the address of print function into the pointer. So you can also see our previous lecture, how can we create this syntax. Okay, now we are going to call the pr function, which is this one. Okay, in this pr function accept a pointer argument to a function. Okay, so p is actually a pointer which point to the print function. Okay, and we are passing this p to the user-defined function, the pr, and this function will call back to the function print. Okay, and this function will be executed then. Okay, so another syntax to pass this argument is you can also write directly the name of the function, user-defined function pr, and then pass the name of the function print to which you want to execute actually through callback function concept. Okay, so these are the two alternatives that you can use. You can use the name of the pointer or you can use the name of the function, and we have already seen that in our previous lecture that print the name of the function also returns the the reference or the address of the function. So p is also passing the address while print is also passing the address of the print function. Okay, so these are the two alternatives. So this is how we can call the callback function using the pointer to a function as argument to the user defined function. And let's see the real case scenario, the real case study now. How can we use this concept in the real programming of the C++? In one of our previous lectures, we have seen how bubble sorting is actually working. Okay, so in bubble sorting, we have performed some swapping operations, and that swapping operation actually perform for the ascending order sorting. Okay, so if you want to perform the descending order sorting, then you need to have changes in your code here inside this function. Okay, and that will be that function will only work for the descending order sorting. Now this function is only working for the ascending order sorting. And for that, we will need to change the code so that our user-defined function, this is bubble sort, may work for the ascending as well as descending order sorting. So to avoid those coding and all those extra instructions and statements introducing in the bubble sorting, we want to introduce another function that only perform this comparison, because sorting is totally dependent on this comparison. Okay, so if we change this greater or less than sign, so it should totally change the concept of the function, okay, for the ascending or descending order. So what we are going to do is we are going to call the pointer to a function, and that pointer will point to a function which return an integer value and will accept two parameters of type integer. So this is why we need to pass first integer value and the second integer value to this function, and this function will return a value which will be a kind of boolean value and or maybe integer value as well, and through that comparison we will decide the swapping of the values. So this is now a function, and let's see how can we should define a function which look like this. The signature of this function should look like this. So let's see. Okay, here you can see we have now defined a user-defined function, and this function should be written before the main function. Okay, so integer is actually the return type, okay, that we have already pointed out in the declaration of our pointer to a function in the argument list of the bubble sort function. And compare is the name of the function, and it accepts two parameter lists. This is integer a and integer b. While this is the body of the function of the compare, okay, so in this body we are comparing two variables. If a is greater than b, it will return 1, the positive one, and if a is not greater than b, then else will be executed and it will return -1 through this gateway. Okay, so this is a very similar signature with the signature that we have already declared for the pointer in the bubble sort. So it means that this compare can be passed as reference to this pointer by calling the bubble sort. Okay, so by calling the bubble sort, so here you can see we have changed the f statement. Now we are calling to the pointer, okay, pointer, and passing two parameters to this pointer, the COMFE pointer. As we know that this pointer will point to the compare function. How? We will see this in our main function. Okay, so this is COMFE is our pointer, and we are passing two arguments to this pointer because this will point to the compare function. And if the return is greater than 0, so then swap shall be performed, otherwise swap shall not be performed. Okay, so it means that if it returns 1, so 1 means that the first element will be greater than the second element and swapping will be performed. Otherwise -1 will be returned and swapping will not be performed. So let's see how we shall pass the argument list to the bubble sort from the main function. So in the main function you can see we have integer I and b is the array having 4 elements in the array, and then we are calling the bubble sort function with array name and then array size, which is 4, and then because we have 3 parameters in the bubble sort, so therefore we need 3 arguments to be passed to the bubble sort. And compare is the function, the user defined function that we have defined here. Okay, so we just need to pass the name of the function. You can also write the $sign before the name of the compare functions, because we are going to save the address of this function into the pointer which is declared in the bubble sort argument parameter list. But you are also the freedom if you don't wish to write the $sign, so this is also legal. Okay, so here we are passing 3 arguments, and these 3 arguments will be cached in the parameter list of the bubble sort function. Okay. So here we will see that the array will come from the main function, the reference from the main function, and then we will see that 4 will be saved in the end, and this pointer will point to the compare function. Okay. So now the concept is now very clear that this pointer will point to the compare function that we have defined there on in another slide. Okay, so we already know that how our compare function works and how the pointer will call the compare function and how these two arguments will pass there to the compare function, and compare function will return a value here. So this is all about, how can we pass the function, the reference of a function, the address of a function to a pointer as argument. This is now pointer to a function argument, and then we will call back to a user-defined function through calling the user-defined function. So this is our user-defined function, and through this function we are calling another function but using the pointer, and this concept is known as the callback function, using pointer to a function. So this is all about the bubble sorting, and pointer to a function and callback a function. So in this case, compare is actually the callback function. So if you have any question regarding these concepts, so you may ask in the comments below, and I will try my best to answer all these questions, inshallah.